Hello everyone, you welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the two crises hit Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon in a lockdown imposed by pro-independence fighters. Streets of many villages and towns in the northwest and southwest regions of the country remained deserted today. In the meantime, the senior divisional officers of the Indian and Meme divisions in the southwest regions of the country are urging civil servants to be in their offices despite the lockdown imposed by separatist fighters and militants. And the candidates of the Social Democratic Front SDF political party and the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement CPDM get into a conflict in the course of campaign ahead of the February 9 municipal and legislative elections in Lum in the Mongo division, Littoral region of Cameroon. Those were our top stories. We begin this newscast in Kumba in the Meme Division, southwest region of the country, where several parts of the town, the streets remained deserted today as the separatist fighters have imposed a 6-day lockdown to disrupt the February 9 twin election in Cameroon and also the February 11 National Youth Day celebration. The picture of Kumba today is in this report by Smanjik Gabriel.
It was a calm and quiet Kumba town that we saw this Thursday, day one of the ghost town announced by separatist fighters. No moving object was seen on the main road as every place was deserted. Most stores located along the road in the commercial avenue of K-Town were simply shut down. The Kumba main market that used to be a busy area even on a non-market day was quiet like a graveyard. No business operators inside the main market. Without any moving objects, it was tough for those who went to their job site.
The town is very, very dry, so you don't see a bike nor taxi to even bother to go to your job site. So it's quite a difficult task to leave for where, because I live very far. To move on foot to reach here where I work is quite difficult. So find it very easy. You have to make sure, because you catch the news at the time, you have to leave your house very early to make sure that you come on foot to reach where you are supposed to in your job site. So I think it's a very difficult task. You don't find it easy. Apart
from the business operators and inhabitants who respected the ghost town in Kumba, no worker was also spotted at the Kumba City Council premises that was supposed to be busy like any other working day. In line with the announced ghost town, the senior divisional officer of Ndian, Lawrence Fowang, and that of Meme Division, Shambalen Tundong, in separate media releases, have called on all civil servants to be present at their duty posts as checks will be made. Added to these checks, the senior divisional officers once again encouraged the inhabitants to massively turn out on February 9, 2020 to vote. The ghost town that began this Thursday, which are plans of separatists to frustrate next Sunday's polls, will end after the 11th of February celebration.
Streets in the northwest regional capital, Bamenda, equally remained deserted throughout the day. in the context of the Operation Ghost Town, or better still, the 6-day lockdown imposed by pro-independence fighters in Anglophone Cameroon, with the aim of disrupting the February 9 municipal and legislative elections and the February 11 National Youth Day celebration. Many parts of the town of Bamenda were simply dead today. However, some inhabitants of the town braved the difficult socio-political and security climate reigning in Bamenda to receive a humanitarian aid from the Yaoundé administration. A correspondent in the northwest region, Bustela, files in details.
Buba Ismaila Abubakar now walks with the aid of a wheelchair. It was not his case 3 years ago.
I have spinal cord injury for 3 years today. I am under therapy. I was a farmer, so this injury met me when I was doing farming. It happened after the crisis has begun. Since the blocked roads, there was no means to go to hospital and there was no way for me to work anything to get money for medication.
He, like many other victims of the Anglophone crisis, moved from one distribution center to the other in a bid to grab food, even if it will last a day.
So these items they have given me will help me a lot. Just the mattress to help me for the spinal cord problem too. I was sleeping very bad. So even the food item, I had no food for all this while. That's why I rushed to say, let me come and receive these things so that it can help me a lot. I have about 4 children in the house.
In the northwest region, every family is in need of assistance. Their families have either doubled or tripled with little or no means of survival. They, a majority women and the old, have converged at the premises of the governor's office to benefit government's humanitarian aid despite the imposed lockdown, which has seen business premises and most streets deserted. The gifts comprises food, mattress, blankets, keeps of savon and 5,000 francs for transport.
Il faut également noter que des mesures fortes ont été prises par le gouvernement.
Betare Baba, head of mission from the Ministry of Territorial Administration, has called on the population to continue with their activities as measures have been put in place to ensure their security before, during and after the February 9th twin elections. Today, at least 200 families benefited.
And interurban travel agencies plying the Douala Bamenda and Douala Kumba highways are on a forceful break as a result of the lockdown imposed by pro-independence fighters in the northwest region of the country. Equinoxe reports.
Week lockdown imposed by Amazonian separatists is on to last February the 12th, with aim to frustrate the February 9th twin local elections and the celebration of the National Youth Day in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. In the Anglophone regions, denizens are indoors for fear of the unknown. The situation in Bamenda has affected interurban transport.
If I'm a proprietor today or a manager, where do you think I'll send my car? That my agency is in the southwest and the other one in northwest, and there's a lockdown for all these two regions. So what do you expect me to do? It's just to accept it until when it goes off.
In Douala, for instance, activities have been paralyzed as no one dares to travel to these English-speaking regions.
Wait, all these things pass before man we go back.
Drivers of interurban agencies plying the Douala Bamenda and Douala Kumba roads are thus on a break.
If you are not queue for road, they go start association, so we don't respect the day, we don't park. No way, no day, no way to go.
Even if passengers approach, they won't grant a ticket to sacrifice their lives and buses.
They don't burn a motor, they don't have a bonbon a motor. So we will hear the ghost of Mole Parkway. Yes.
Just the unusual deserted park alone speaks volume. We are told since Monday, no one was traveling to the restive regions as the lockdown day approached.
Only coming down, so our boss decided to send vehicle in Bamenda empty. So they go and carry passengers the whole night. It's only passengers coming down. So there was terrible passengers in Bamenda.
Even security dispositions taken by governments to ensure peaceful running of commercial activities, elections and celebration of the National Youth Day, the interurban transporters say will not protect their lives, but a genuine solution.
Person not be ready for die. So my government really look for inside the matter for to see if they solve the problem.
Most of these cars are from Bamenda. They came since yesterday and they cannot go back. So in fact, we are praying that government should look us so that we should be moving freely.
We just have to accept this condition because we have no power to change this condition. The only thing that we are pleading for the government to look for the way out of this situation.
Government believes the form of special status accorded the northwest and southwest regions and the deployment of military men in Anglophone Cameroon are concrete measures to restore peace.
And travel agencies in Bamenda were overcrowded in the early hours of the morning yesterday as several persons were leaving the town ahead of the Operation Ghost Town, which started today in Anglophone Cameroon. Several persons indicated to our correspondent in Bamenda that they were leaving in order to have their freedom elsewhere, the freedom to go on with their activities without any disturbances as a result of the Operation Ghost Town that is imposed by the separatist fighters, or the lockdown imposed by separatist fighters in the northwest region of the country. They will be unable to go about their daily activities, and one of them spoke to our correspondent in Bamenda, and we kept his identity for security reasons. Take a listen.
I'm traveling because of the so-called lockdown that has been announced in the days ahead. So I'll not be able to move freely. I will not be able to eat. Enough food will not be able to accommodate me in the house. So I want to even move freely where I'll be traveling to. I'll be going to Douala. So I have to socialize with my friends. I'm not a social isolate, and even have free air to breathe.
In the southwest region of the country, officials of the National Gendarmerie have intercepted an important consignment of cannabis that was being transported by an individual from that part of the country to other areas for sale. And of course, Derek Jato files in details from Boya.
1,300 kilo.
1,300 kilograms of marijuana has been intercepted by the element of the 2nd Gendarmerie Region, the Motorized Roads Division in Boya.
When they moved for Mbuda,
Duma Aze, the commander here, told the press that the drug left Mbuda in the West Region for the Southwest Region.
As you see, this big carrison, so this carrison not be for only for Southwest.
The consignment succeeded to get into the region, but his element at Muselele, a control post along the Tiko-Douala road, stopped it from getting to its final destination.
The entire then after dispatching for Okim Road.
The bags containing marijuana was on board this bus, and Chungon got love. The driver said he took the bags for corn and gari, not marijuana.
I asked me what I carry. I said I carry but gari and corn. They are seeing the gari and corn. When they take the knife and bust the bags, discover that is what we are seeing here is inside. So I said, this is the owner. I mainly load on the park, and the person brings his luggage. Do not know what was inside. But we don't open passenger bags in the park. I never know him before. I never ever know. I just know that that's a passenger who come and go inside my car.
I know the woman just they do my clan. So then they carry me go carry oil.
Ocha Equinoxe, the owner of the good, told the press that he was merely running an errand for a certain lady. But Commander Duma Aze is surprised to see Ocha Equinoxe a free man.
This is the same guy. You not stay away. This is the same boy. The car will catch him with 3 bags.
I caught him with about 400 kilograms of marijuana recently. He told me that it was for the pigs.
Like that. Last time, he said the bag and for good for swine.
And I handed him over for justice. And today, I am surprising him.
It's very difficult.
Research shows that marijuana can cause permanent IQ loss, especially when people start using it at a very young age.
You see, that the banger, they be confused for school then.
The falling moral standard, especially in schools. And terrorism around us might have been motivated by the use of marijuana.
You will help us because the thing they want to do this time, they know we do it because they know.
Intercepting 1,300 kilograms of marijuana, the commander of the 2nd Gendarmerie Region revealed that has indirectly stopped terror from coming to town, especially at this moment in the history of a nation like Cameroon.
Despite Boko Haram terrorist attacks in the far north region of Cameroon and the unstable socio-political and security situation reigning in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, militants and candidates of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) political party continue striving to get their campaign message through to the suffering populations. Now, updates on some of the CPDM campaigns in the far north and northwest regions of the country in this report compiled by for me, Armstrong Sander.
Ahead of the 9th of February 2020 municipal and legislative elections in Cameroon, campaigning in the conflict-hit northwest and southwest regions has become more and more difficult with the intensified separatist boycott and lockdown calls. But in some places like the Donga Mountain Central and East, the CPDM party is taking the campaign message into villages. After the divisional launch in Kambe, the CPDM party legislative and municipal candidates took the message to Binka village.
Binka is my second village after Tabikim. I'm very proud that more than 2,500 militants came out to welcome me. But we have very important elites from Binka. We have Sheikh Yuzebe, we have Tala Golov, we have Mr. Francis. Those are elites that bring development to Binka.
Confident about a sweeping CPDM victory in Binka come 9 February. The candidates said the visit to Binka was not a campaign per se, but an encounter to celebrate CPDM victory.
So Binka people were the first village to have defied the tears and told Amba to move away. And today I'm here, so proud of them. I'm very sure and optimistic that they are going to come out massively come 9th of February to vote for the CPDM. They always voted for the CPDM.
Before the rally in Binka, the CPDM party legislative list leader for the Donga Mountain Center visited some bridges under construction in Tabinkane, Binjeng, Bi and Kongi villages on the Kambe Central Subdivision. In the Bogo subdivision of the Jamare in the Far North region, 2 government ministers championed the CPDM party campaign caravan. As sons of the soil and party elite, Ministers Ibrahim Talba Mala and Osman Alamin May told the people of Bogo to uphold the traditional CPDM victory in the area. While presenting the CPDM municipal and legislative candidates for Bogo, the minister said Bogo is a CPDM stronghold and should be re-echoed through the ballot come the 9th of February 2020.
In Lumin, Mungo Division, Littoral region of Cameroon, militants of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement and the Social Democratic Front daggers drawn, so to speak. They got into a fight during campaigns ahead of the February 9 municipal and legislative elections. Immaculate Fogwe reports.
Tensions sparks up between militants of the Social Democratic Front (SDF) party and the Cameroon People Democratic Movement (CPDM) party. The scene, which took place in Lum in the Mungo Division, occurs during a campaign rally of the SDF party. While the SDF was carrying out its campaign, militants of the CPDM party stormed the area, disrupting the meeting. It is not the first time that they are doing this. We experienced such a situation in Shantiga, Mabuble, Karifungodi, and now they are doing the same thing here. We don't know what they want, but let them know that they can't intimidate us. They should be rest assured that the SDF will get 100% votes.
Notre véritable problème, on a pris la route des bancaires.
Responding to the angry SDF militants, a CPDM official explains that they were heading to Deux Sang-Deux and the Banquet stretch of road was the lone motorable road. They equally said they were going to Loum for their campaign caravan and that their intention was not to disrupt the SDF campaign. After the tense atmosphere, both parties settled their differences amicably. The incumbent mayor, Kiategi Wamba, calls on electorates to continue believing in him as they always did. We came here to renew our position that you people once gave us. The SDF is the people's choice. The battle for the Loum Council is fierce as the CPDM party fight hard to kick off the SDF.
In our fatherland, fighting for our freedom, in the name of social justice.
And officials of the Social Democratic Front SDF political party in the Douala 4 and Wuri West constituency, the Douala 4 subdivision and Wuri West constituency, are accusing some officials and candidates of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement of malpractices intended to dampen the efforts of the SDF legislative candidates in the Wuri West constituency. And we talked to Mayor John Danley Kumaze, former mayor of the Douala 4 municipality and municipal candidate of the Social Democratic Front in the Douala 4. Take a listen.
Once again, heard the allegations that Mr. Fanja, who is a candidate for the legislative elections on the list of the CPDM, is using the pictures and images of our head of list for the municipal elections, Mr. Jojo, claiming that the SDF has signed an alliance with him, Fanja. This is a second attempt claiming that we have signed an alliance with him to vote the municipals for the SDF and vote him, Fanja, for the legislative. So shows clearly that he is not credible. He is not sure of himself, and he wants to use the credibility of the SDF to steal the legislative elections. I want to repeat that the head of the legislative list of the SDF is Mr. Mabanga Paul, who is so credible, hardworking, and he has called on the population of Douala 4, Bonaberi, to vote him on the 9th of February to the post of a parliamentarian to represent them and to talk on their behalf, be their voice in the National Assembly. Mr. Jojo is head of this. He is not an official of the party to sign an alliance in the name of the SDF.
We try to get to the CPDM legislative candidate for Wuri West, Gabriel Fanja, to no avail, but we caught up with another official of the CPDM political party in the Douala 4 subdivision. He is the third deputy mayor in that part of the country's economic capital and also a municipal candidate in the upcoming February 9 municipal and legislative elections. 2-4 in Aya Joseph. Take a listen.
For the success of the CPDM, we also hear such rumors, but we can't confirm that is exactly this. But since politics is not played in a daylight, politics, what is being said during the day are probably maybe true or false. And so I want to say it's a bad thing, if at all it takes place, for a militant of CPDM to go and negotiate with some few militants of SDF to say they have agreed to vote this and don't vote this, vote that and not vote this. It is a very bad thing, and I want to call upon the militants of the CPDM not to be distracted, because those are the forces of evil that are trying to distract.
Up next, a campaign slot. Coming up next is our slot consecrated to the 2020 February 9 municipal and legislative elections in Cameroon. Thanks for staying with us. We are receiving the legislative candidates of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party in the Boya urban constituency in the southwest region of Cameroon. Magistrate Malumba Esembe, you're welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan, for having me, and let me congratulate you for the wonderful job you do, and to wish a good evening to all your televiewers, and particularly to the beautiful and loving population of Boya urban constituency.
All right, you're going to tell us why the people of Boya urban should vote for you in a short while. But first, let's take a listen to this.
Magistrate was trading a man, and the major differences between us are very glaring. One, he's young and inexperienced. He just got out of school a couple of years ago. He has no working experience. But two, and more importantly, he's not had the kind of training I've had. He's not prepared for this kind of job. He's been trained by the institutions of the same regime. He works for this regime. He's a civil servant of this regime. He cannot defend the people of Boya who have been oppressed by this regime against his employers. It's impossible. He's had the wrong preparation. All of us know what ENAM produces in this country. Oppressors.
On what grounds are you saying that he has no experience? Is it just about the fact that he graduated as magistrate from the National School of Administration and Magistracy just some few years ago?
Yeah, they are not trained in defense. They're not trained in doing the kind of work a member of parliament will do if I was one. Let me tell you something. It takes, for a member of parliament, number one, independence. A civil servant cannot have that kind of independence to challenge the government or the ministers who are oppressing us or the administrators. He cannot. He will be dismissed tomorrow, or his salary will be cut off like they did with my friend Paul Aya, who is probably one of the most brave civil servants I've ever seen in this country. But he was tormented. Now, Malumba, nice young man, really very intelligent, personable. I'd even invited him to work with me and join my chambers at one time because I saw him as the kind of people who could be trained and prepared to defend the interests of Fago people. But he's on the other side. He's on the wrong side of the divide. He is not prepared. His training and his employment does not prepare him for this kind of work. Let me tell you.
But he has been prepared by his party, and that is why he is put forth. If he was not prepared, his party will not. The CPDM will not take the risk.
Yeah, you can see the result of civil servant politicians in this country. We see them, civil servant politicians. Now, if he's really a politician, let him resign. Let him show us his resignation letter that he has left the magistracy. He's going to become a private citizen like me, and he's going to run to defend his people of Boya and Fako. We want to see that.
Is there anything that forbids him from continuing his job as a magistrate?
I do not believe it is allowed for you. I don't think you can be both. You cannot be a civil servant and hold office as a member of parliament. I think that was one of the reasons why a lot of people like Von Mukete and Mr. Honorable Prime Minister Mafani Musonge and a lot were removed or resigned from the Senate. You cannot hold those two offices.
But that will only intervene after the election
results. I think it should happen.
It should have. He will now decide on which.
In principle, it should have happened before he put in his candidature to show the level of independence he has. But you see, the system works to favor those who work for the system. You cannot be a civil servant, fully employed, taking a salary from the government, and then you stand to run for a political office without resigning. You cannot. It doesn't happen anyway. Let me tell you, my friend Barrister Akere Muna, he held certain public offices before he put in his candidature to run for presidency. He resigned in all those positions. That's the honorable thing you do. Let Mr. Malumba, if he truly believes, if he has a conviction that he can really fight for Fako people and Boya people, like I do, let him resign from his job and become vulnerable and independent, like I am. I try to make people understand that when you go into politics, it's not about parties. Parties are just an umbrella you use. When you go into politics, it's to serve your people, no matter what party you belong. To be candid, if I had seen the CPDM candidate whom I believe really had these people at heart and who was qualified to run for Boya, I would not have gone into these elections. I went in because I just got fed up with the same broken old record that is playing over and over and over in
Barrister Mbela Ikomi Ngongi, SDF legislative candidate for Boya Urban, who was speaking yesterday in our election program. And today we are receiving Barrister or Magistrate Malomba Esembe. You're young and inexperienced. What do you have to say about that?
It makes me laugh, saying one thing and the contrary. First of all, I'm happy he spent his time on the set pouring encomiums on me, actually adulating me, calling me intelligent, and even telling the truth that he had one time solicited me to work with him, which he knows is not possible because as a civil servant and magistrate, I could not work with him, and that's what I told him. And like I was asking you during the interview, I came here to discuss issues, not to talk about a person. But you kindly advise that this is to set the record straight that you put on that tape. So let me just tell you one thing which I see there.
All right, go ahead.
So much confusion in his spirit. You know, this reminds me of what the famous English judge, whom many Anglophone jurists like to cite, Lord Denning, who says, obscurity in thought invariably leads to obscurity in language, and I'll add in action. When you find a man who claims he has been practicing law for 41 years, making mistakes with the fundamentals in law, it is unfortunate. A magistrate is allowed to run for office. There are concepts he is not able to even distinguish. Let me tell you what they are. You have electoral disqualifications, you have ineligibility, and you have incompatibility. To be disqualified means that you cannot be on the electoral list, and the conditions are in the electoral code. They include if you've been convicted for a felony, if you have been sentenced with a term which is not suspended for more than 3 months, if you've been suspended with a term of above 6 months, if you are an undischarged bankrupt, if you are insane. With these conditions, you cannot be registered. And you know the link. When you are not registered, you cannot be a candidate.
And surely you cannot campaign.
Exactly. And when we say you are ineligible, if you go read the electoral code, if I'm not mistaken, it should be around the section 159. The category of persons who are ineligible are the police and the soldiers. The law in that article 159 says, while in active service, and even 6 months after termination, either by resignation or dismissal, you cannot run or stand for elections as member of parliament. Then you have now incompatibility, where the law tells you, 160 of that code, that you cannot be at the same time member of parliament and senator, member of government, mayor, etc., etc. But now what is certain is that the text of 8 March 1995, which organizes the magistracy corps, makes it clear that you can be on secondment as a magistrate if you win a public election. The electoral code reiterates this, and it says that from the moment you win, you are automatically on secondment. A decree of the head of state ascertains that. So when you come on the set and you begin by telling lies, either out of sheer ignorance or bad faith, it is not good. And I'm so disgruntled that I have to spend the time
in a nutshell, what we should understand from what you're saying is that there is no issue of incompatibility or illegality.
On the contrary, he cited to you a case. He called him his friend, who too was a magistrate and ran for parliament and won. There are other magistrates. I can cite you one. He is in the Senate, although they're by appointment. The law provides for it. Fonchafa of Bangolan, because our text says either by appointment into government or winning an election, public office as a magistrate, you have a mandate. And for the span of that period, you are on secondment. You have the minister of my department, you have the former PM Yang, you have like the director general of FACOM. Those are all magistrates.
All right, there's no problem with that.
So go ask him again when he comes here to go read back his law notes.
There's no problem with that, according to what you have just said now. He thinks that there's a problem with the fact that you have been trained by the system. So you were not prepared to serve the people of Boya, who, according to him, are being tortured by the same regime that trained you. What do you have to say about this?
How I would have loved to spend this time talking issues. Babila, look at this. Look at the incongruity. I don't know if this is sheer ignorance. In the etymology of the word prosecutor, your client are victims. You are there for the oppressed. When a crime is perpetrated against you tomorrow, which is not my wish, or against me, the person I turn to is the prosecution. We are there to work for victims. While on the other side, defense counsel is there to, like they say, defend the criminal. Do you get the sense of it? And he comes here and he distorts the meaning of everything. I wonder whether it's sheer ignorance or just bad faith.
All right, let's go to issues. A prosecutor
is there to represent victims of offenses.
All right, before we talk about your project, because I think that's the most important thing. The people who are listening to you now want to hear the projects you have, or the ideas and the issues that you have in your brain for the people of Boya Urban, if they actually vote for you February 9. You were trained in the National School of Administration and Magistracy, and you graduated as a magistrate. Now, do you have what it takes, politically speaking, what it takes? I know that the CPDM, your party, has an academy where young politicians are trained, and they also have a system where the elderly ones are training the younger ones who are coming up, and so on. You're a very young person. Do you have the experience, what it takes?
First of all, you may have...
The people of Boya want to know this.
You may have gotten it from your correspondence on the field in Boya. The clamor, the popularity my candidacy has generated, which is causing so much frustration on the other part of it. I am fond of saying that I am a product of grace. At age 34, I have behind me 12 years of practicing law. I began as a court registrar after leaving Enam Saikubi in 2005, briefly, and then I went to the Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, where I worked in the Legal Affairs Unit as a legal advisor, where, among other duties, we wrote the first drafts of the text which regulate activities in that ministry today. Thereafter, I returned to Enam, where I was trained as a magistrate, and for the past 8 years or so, I've been an assistant to the Procureur General in Boya. At 34, this is a blessing. So it's not about the age, it's about the experience, and above all, for political reasons, for things you have done, not just in the career, but in the society. I'm also a man in the church, I am a man in the family, I'm a man in several associations back there in Boya.
I remember you started your campaign in the church.
Exactly, because it's a very simple reason. God is always right, so it is better to be on God's side. And I'll mention this because I like quoting this great book, the Bible. You must be able to manage small things before you can aspire for bigger things. It's not about age. I got married at the age of 23 and have a stable family till date with 3 kids. Find out about the opponent. I'm not going into his private life. If you've not been able to even keep a family, you cannot be a man at that age who aspires to lead the whole constituency. It's not possible. And this gives me a chance to reply to something very important. There is plenty of bad faith which is bringing into this business, which is not good. When he came here yesterday, I took note of something, because the tape was played to me late in the night after I'd had a series of meetings. If you go and look at his manifesto, we both published manifestos on the very first day of the campaign. Mine has 4 core points, he has 5. In those 5 points, there is no mention of the Silicon Mountain concept in Boya. Yesterday, I released a blueprint on what I would do as concerns the Silicon Mountain. And I've been talking about it all through the campaign. As if to use it to his gain, he comes on set and begins to quote from my manifesto and spends his whole time talking about me. And you find that correct? Of course, no. Issues he doesn't even understand. And he was virtually babbling here. I felt sorry for him.
Let's talk about your manifesto now.
Thank you. That's why
let's start right away with the Silicon Mountain project that you have. That's a very important thing for the people of Boya and the young people in particular. What project do you have for this in this domain?
Why is it important? If the Silicon Mountain is given the attention it deserves, Boya will be bigger than, I would say, Limbe with a seaport. What's the Silicon Mountain? The Silicon Mountain is simply this ecosystem of young minds in Boya, whom I call tech giants, tech engineers, entrepreneurs, who with so little are doing a lot to change the way we live, creating applications, creating software. The world today has gone digital. And despite the weak normative framework, despite the absence of incentives, despite the inadequate resources they have, they've been able to brandish Boya, to give Boya this sobriquet of a Silicon Mountain, a center of technology. Foreign ambassadors, ministers in government have been coming to see what they are doing. As a young man who has lived in Boya, and who has been blessed to be friends with most of these my other peers, the likes of Valerie Colon, Churchill Mambe, Mokate Asho, I came to realize that, A, we could make Boya a technopolis. Boya could become a center, not just in this nation or the sub-region, but maybe on the globe of technology exportation. It is possible. The talent, the acumen is already there. What do they need?
So what are you going to do about that?
Exactly, their challenges. The most notable, which is a core of my manifesto, is the fact that the legal framework as at now doesn't accommodate them properly. If they have to function, the law compels them to be in an association. This is very difficult and impracticable because these are thinkers out of the box. You cannot box them in an association. They need to function independently. That's why we call them an ecosystem. We need a law in this country which will allow them function in that way which suits them best. That's what other countries have, the likes of Nigeria, Kenya, and the other developed countries you can mention. And running for parliament, this is one key motivation. That I will push for this as a young man of Boya who knows the potential which is there for this to be done. Do you get the point?
Right.
It is possible.
So you're going to, apart from pushing for it in Parliament, are you going to use some of the money, the 8 million francs CFA that will be given to you yearly as micro grants to invest?
That goes without saying. This is so core to me. I mean, it is so central to my aspiration of being a parliamentarian. Because besides the micro project money you've mentioned, a good representative, a best friend of the people, like I've come to be described, and I've come to position myself to be in Boya, is the one who will be a good hunting dog, shaking the doors of the relevant ministries, in particular that of Post and Telecommunications, to ensure that the right resources in necessary quantity are allocated to Boya. And believe me, when it is done, you cannot imagine. If you just go even online and check what are hubs in even other African countries like Nigeria and Kenya, which are ranked very favorably in the world classification of tech cities, you will be amazed. You find skyscrapers taller than this your Equinoxe building. And when you go in all the rooms, you just find young men quietly and young women quietly working, creating and innovating. We can do that. And believe me, the advantages are more than we can imagine. Besides making Boya that center of attraction, you can imagine what it will bring in terms of employment, for instance.
All right, away from the Silicon Mountain, what are the other projects that you have for the people of Boya, Oban?
I just mentioned the other one. The first core point is being their effective representative, their best friend. It has been my life from when I was a boy. Empathy, attending to other people, making sure other people's problems are solved before mine. And now, with the training which my opponents, I don't know, cannot properly identify, that of being an advocate, I am going to Parliament to carry their voices along and to make sure that their aspirations are translated into legislation. Unlike him, I've had the blessing to have worked in drafting laws before in my life. He claims he has been out there for several years, but the point I'd like the electorate to note, and it's very simple, it's not when you are negotiating the last bend in your life that you come and deceive an electorate that you want to serve them. Martin Luther King Jr. was right when he said, the real measure of a man is where he stands in times of challenge and controversy, not of comfort. In his youthful life, he was blessed to have worked with government first, the SNH. He worked abroad. In all that time, go ask him, Boya. Nobody saw him do anything. He helped no one. When it's time to retire and maybe take care of grandchildren, you come and start fooling the people, selling illusions to them. Imagine what it takes for me, a young man, because the question keeps coming back to me. You are in one of the most noble professions every society has to offer. You are a prosecutor, you are a magistrate. You are living it like one of my mommies asked me in Boya, to get into a thing which people will never tell you thank you, and I tell her no. Serving others is a higher calling, and that's what I seek to do.
All right, serving others is a higher calling. You want to get close to the people, listen to them, get their troubles, carry them to the hemicycle in Yaoundé, and push for solutions. And one of the major problems of the people today in Buea Urban, like the rest of Anglophone Cameroon, is the crisis. What are you thinking about this?
The finding
as a young and vibrant leader who is coming up to represent them, if they vote for
the light at the end of the tunnel is already visible, except for some few areas in the peripheries where there may still be issues. Most of the urban centers in the so-called Anglophone Cameroon are fine. I just came in here from Boya, and I belong to that stable, loyal majority, the CPDM, which stands for unity, for progress, and for democracy. We are working very hard, and I think the fruits of our exertions are now visible. Peace is coming. And what have we done? True to our motto, we espoused the democratic way of doing things. That's why the party went in fully for the Grand National Dialogue, which took place from the last day of October last year, I think to the first week of September. It was democratic because Cameroonians came from all over, even from the diaspora. They sat together and came up with resolutions. That's the people's voice. Even our constitution tells you sovereignty, that is supreme power in the country, belongs to the people. And when they so come together and agree on things which today the government of the day of the CPDM has already promulgated into law after Parliament adopted, the task for me going forward is to make sure that these
recommendations are implemented for a return to peace and normalcy in those two regions. All right, in some few words, what will you tell the people of Buea?
That this is the real man for the job. The Bible says it is in your youth that you use the energy and the strength to serve, not when you are retiring. And above all, the question you have to answer on the 9th before the ballot box is, who is the honest of the two? This morning I was making a statement on the radio in Buea because when I was just getting in, I noticed a message in my phone. What was it about? The elites of one part of Buea called Buea Town, where there have been difficulties with having pipe-borne water over the years, came up with a project to seek funds to have water flow in their area. I don't come from that part of town, my opponent comes from there. And he has never contributed for that. I did. All he could do was to go on the forum of that project and paste his campaign manifesto. And someone reminded him just this morning as I was walking into a radio that it would have been better if he even contributed. I have seen him in the past days carry a truck no one has ever seen in Buea, claiming he's supplying water. That is falsehood. The truth is you have to first of all have integrity to run for office. Integrity means speaking the truth to yourself, not playing over people's miseries and telling lies that you bring water in 1 year, which is impossible. I'm telling my people, you know me, I am your son. I will remain this respectful boy. I will remain your faithful friend and dependable brother. I will work tirelessly for your peace and your development in Buea with love as I've promised you.
Magistrate Malumba Eseme, legislative candidate of the CPDM for Buea Urban constituency. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure, Babila, and continue with the good work you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.